Hello, everyone. Corey from AppSmart here. Just going to give it a couple more minutes while people filter in, and we will get started. Thank you. Hello to those that have just joined. We are going to give it just another minute while people filter in, and we will get started. All right, time to get started. I'm Corey Dubinsky, Training Development Manager with AppSmart, and I'm here today with Prodoscore. But before we get started, I just want to point out that you can ask questions during this webinar. There is a questions toolbar in your GoToMeeting toolbar, so just click on the question section, drop the little arrow down, and you're able to type in your questions. So you can ask those anytime, and we will get those answered at the end for you. All right, I want to introduce the Chief Product Evangelist with Prodoscore. We have Chrysantos with us. Chrysantos, go ahead and take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Corey, and thank you to the whole AppSmart team for putting this together and working so hard and, making this webinar happen. I'm very excited to be here and talking, obviously, with the channel community. Before I get started, I just want to give 2 minutes, a quick introduction about myself, because I think it's important. First off, like a lot of vendors who talk to the channel, I think it's important that I convey to you that many, many years ago in my prior life, I used to be a kind of a break fix kind of computer repair guy. And I used to go work with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, probably had like 20 customers. And along the way, I stumbled and built a relationship with Google, got into the GSuite business, and I later sold that company. But before I sold that company, I got into the software business and trying to figure out ways to integrate communications with CRM. I developed another company called GUnify that was later sold to Vonage. And the reason I share that with you is because I think it's important, before we start this webinar, to convey the difficulties and the challenges that are facing us right now in the terms of how everything is coming together. And based on all my experience in this space, I see how sometimes partners and agents can get really myopic in their function or their expertise. And back in the day, that used to be a good strategy. But I think now, because everything is converging, I think it's very important as a partner, as an agent, as a channel person, we have to look at the business as a whole. And we have to kind of branch out from our core expertise, whether it's network, whether it's phones, whatever. We have to expand our base if we are going to be successful in this new type of environment. And I encourage you to go on LinkedIn, and I encourage you to add me as a resource or a network or whatever you want to call it on LinkedIn. So I post all the time on LinkedIn, and I always, I try not to post BS, but I do post, so I encourage you to follow me. So I think it's important that you understand where I'm coming from. So I do have a background in communications, CRM, I understand Office, I understand GSuite, and given the environment that we're in, right, and all the uncertainty, if you're like me, you're in your house. And the world has woken up to a whole new reality, right? Just a couple of weeks ago, unemployment was literally at 3.6%. And the challenges that were facing businesses at that time are completely different to the challenges that we are about to face right now as a company. And you as advisors, as guides, as consultants, whatever you're doing for your businesses or the businesses that you support, We are now in an era where things that we knew just literally 2 weeks ago are no longer going to be the reality when all this is said and done, because what's going to happen as a result of technology, we are going to realize that we could do things that we did not want to do or that we didn't know could be done. For example, a lot of people still believe in having office space, right? For whatever reason, people love office space. There are some people, they still love flying and going everywhere. There's people who love going to restaurants. Those types of environments, or people who like to go to grocery stores, those types of things are forcing people to change behavior, that when all is said and done, we're going to wake up into a world that is very different than the world we knew just by a couple of weeks. So we have to be very mindful of what the current situation is and how we're going to provide value to these businesses. And if you can put your mind into CEOs right now and what they're going through, right? They're thinking about, because I know a lot of you guys are business owners, and I know a lot of you guys have employees. We are thinking about how are we going to maintain payroll, right? Because obviously our employees are very important to us. Those big businesses, they're no different. The other thing they're thinking about is, how am I going to maintain my operations? You know, who's going to cover the rent? Who's going to do this? And then more importantly, how am I going to drive revenue? So these CEOs, the problems that they're faced with right now, they're major challenges. And everything comes back to cost and revenue. And people are the most expensive resource that most businesses have. And now that we are going into a new world, it's more important that the employees we do have, or the employees we do keep, that they stay productive. And it's more importantly that they're driving those revenues, because we have to drive sales. We can't just sit here and give up and say, oh, there's nothing going on, we just got to sit home. No, it's not true. There's a lot we can do, especially as agents, advisors who work in technology. This is an idea like, how can we help these businesses grow based on what we already know? Because what we were selling before might not be pertinent to the environment that we are in now. One of the things that I like to harp on, and Microsoft had this really amazing slide, they talked about identifying certain types of people. And there are certain types of people, and each and every one of you, you can think of, you probably each have about 3 customers. And you can vision who are really easy to work with. They're probably your best customers. They always take your advice. They're always buying that product that you recommend that's going to help their business in whatever way, from security to email, whatever you're offering them, phones. They're the ones that probably make up 80% of your business. And they think outside the box. And more than likely than not, those 3 customers that you support that do really well with you, they're also the ones that are growing their businesses. Because it's only those types of people, those strivers and those drivers, that are going to make it in today's environment. Because just what happened now is a catastrophe. It is unprecedented. And only those business leaders who can think outside the box can adapt to this change, and they have to move very quickly, are going to survive this. Because those business owners that you knew who were always moving very slow when it came to transition, or didn't want to transition to the cloud, or didn't want to think outside the box, those businesses have almost a zero, I would say a very small chance of making it after this is all said and done. Technology is going to determine the winners. And those CEOs and those business leaders and those owners, the ones who were thinking forward, they were already ahead of the curve. This is what makes this slide so true. And one thing I will say is, I've been using this deck for 2 years. To anybody who would listen to me, I have been talking about this deck. So what I'm about to show you, I've been teaching this for 2 years. It's not like I woke up this morning because of the coronavirus and said, let's message around the coronavirus. I've been saying this for 2 years, that those business owners, and you know them, the drivers and the strivers, are the ones who are going to succeed. The businesses that you have already deployed, and I'm just using this as an example because I like them, RingCentral and Vonage, those two companies that you've already deployed on RingCentral and Vonage, those people are a lot further ahead than most people. I still meet businesses that are on-premise PBX systems. They're still on old school telephony. I can't believe how many businesses I come across that are still on legacy telephony systems. Blows my mind. Blows my mind how many businesses still have old legacy CRM, or some businesses who aren't even using a CRM. And then you got businesses who are slowly transitioning, who more than likely than not, especially right now, are moving to Office 365 or moving to GSuite. The businesses that already were deployed on Office 365 or GSuite, or the businesses that were already using Salesforce or already using RingCentral and Vonage, those businesses should not see a disruption in their workflow right now. And there's not many of those businesses who already had transitioned all these systems to the cloud. Like I said, I've been on calls these past couple of days with so many businesses, blows my mind. There's some of them are still on Exchange. Some of them are still on, legacy PBX systems. Some of them have contact management systems that you can only access from the office. You want to talk about disruption and opportunity, and if you can do this stuff remotely, and if you can do this quickly, and you can help these businesses transition to these systems, there is a great amount of opportunity. And a lot of these systems are not cheap. When you start adding up all the costs, for those of you guys that don't know what a Salesforce license costs, a Salesforce license, which is probably the most dominant, most used CRM system in the market, is between $150 to $300 per user per month. You got Office 365 and GSuite licenses that can go between $5, $10, $15, $25, $30 per user per month. And then you got your UC phone systems, depending on your negotiating skills for your customers, those prices can go from anywhere between 25 to 150, if you're delivering contact center or whatever you're delivering for them, right? And when you add up all those fees, that's a lot of money. And believe it or not, a lot of these systems are not even integrated. Even though they have the capacity to be integrated, they're not integrated. So data is siloed. Data is siloed in your CRM, it's siloed in the office tools, it's siloed in the communications. One of the challenges, even before this crisis, was people were not using the CRM. I cannot tell you how many companies I know have deployed Salesforce, they barely use it. And the companies that do use it, they use it as a glorified contact management system. And then very, 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 very few companies have like full all-out customization, automation, workflow. I mean, very few. The one thing that shocked me more than anything is when I started seeing companies, I would go to their offices, they had just deployed their UC phone systems. I'm not going to use vendors' names. I used to see Polycom phones still in boxes. Yealink phones still in boxes. I've seen some vendors in the UC industry, they don't even use their own UC mobile app. And the G Suite and the Office 365 stuff that we're buying for collaboration, People still use it for just email. They're still using their Outlook. They're still using their local documents. Like, they're not even leveraging all of this technology. So if you think about all the money that's being spent in this technology, for those businesses who were smart enough to go onto these systems, yeah, they had the right vision, but what's the point of having the vision if you can't leverage it and you don't use it? Now we have a new buzzword that everybody's talking about: machine learning, AI, all these different tools, right? Sounds like high pie in the sky stuff, but we don't even know what it's used for. How are we going to apply it? If we can't even use our own phone system, how are we going to have discussions about machine learning? This is an example of a customer that was on a UC phone system. They were on it forever. They were all using their personal cell phones, paying their monthly bill, didn't even think about it. You start applying some logic to these systems, and all of a sudden behavior changes. All of a sudden adoption increases literally overnight. All of a sudden they're using their UC mobile app just by applying some algorithmic logic. Now people are using it. And the same thing goes with GSuite. And the same applies for Office 365. The minute you apply some logic to these business tools, people start using it. And the same thing goes with Salesforce. If you look at this profile, this guy was barely using Salesforce. A couple days later, 200% increase. And if you think about the environment that we live in right now, everybody is, for the moment, is working remotely. Everybody's working remotely. And the companies that have deployed this software, either RingCentral, Vonage, Office 365, or GSuite, or Salesforce, Zoho, Sugar, whatever. Okay, they got the technology, but they're not using it. And then you can understand, you can see the vision of where everything is going. Everybody's going remotely. And if you go back to my first slide, the one I showed with the CEO, he's holding his head down. He's worried about a couple things. He's worried, hey, are my employees going to stay productive? How am I going to measure their productivity? First off, if they don't even have the right business tools in place, that's going to be almost impossible. Hopefully you sold them Vonage. Hopefully you sold them RingCentral. Hopefully they're already on Office 365 or GSuite. Hopefully they're already using an online CRM. Because if they're not, there is a great opportunity for you as a consultant, as a partner, as an agent, especially with AppSmart, because with AppSmart, you can offer your customers everything and help them get there. And everything is coming together. People are looking right now for ways to measure productivity, gain visibility into what their employees, because believe it or not, a lot of people are terrified of working from home. I just met a big company that's terrified of working from home. And I just want to give you a real world example. Can you guys, I hope you guys can still see my screen. Corey, can you see my screen?
Yep, we see you.
As a business leader, Prodoscore, the entire Prodoscore team, when this disruption happened, this didn't even bother us. We're still working as usual. And believe it or not, these past couple of days, I've never seen us so busy. We had one partner literally on Monday bring us into 4 opportunities. Because right now, CEOs don't know how they're going to manage a remote workforce. But before they can manage a remote workforce, you better hope they're on Vonage or RingCentral, they're on GSuite or Office 365, or they have an online CRM. And if they're not, you can help get them there. And then once you help get them there, this is then where Prodoscore can help bring it all together from a visibility standpoint. Because once you have all the right tools in place, it is so much easier to measure productivity of employees. I can see things, guys like this guy, Will Reynolds, I can see what his productivity is. I can see all of his systems. I can see he starts working at 9 o'clock. I can see he starts doing emails. I can see his phone calls. I can see who he's talking to. I can read all his data. I can see what is he talking about. By leveraging and aggregating all the data, you are now in a position to visualize data. As long as they have the right systems in place, you can now understand, like, hey, I hope Will is talking about remote work. How is he talking about it? Oh, he's talking about it through email. Why is he not picking up the phone more? I can see that he's talking to this guy right here. Why is he talking to this guy so much? Okay, he sent emails. When you have the right systems in place, the power that you can do with data is going to revolutionize business, and here's why. Because after this is all said and done, what businesses are going to realize, you know what, I don't need that office space no more. You know what, people are way more productive when they work from home. Wow, I didn't realize that. Wow, my employees are using the business tools that I purchased, and I'm able to aggregate and visualize data. Instead of selling a phone, you're now selling a story. You're selling a solution. And as a partner, going back to that striver, that driver, partners have to be the strivers and the drivers for some of these businesses because they're busy running a business. They don't have time to go out there and look for all these things. A lot of business, every time we do demos for companies, they all say the same thing. I didn't even realize anything like this existed. Right now, the key to what's going on, everybody's working remotely. The way the world is going to look, technology is going to disrupt so many it's going to disrupt so many industries right now. Technology. Because technology helps us do things that we did not know were possible. So by bringing all of this together, especially at a time that we are in right now, we can do something amazing. And it's only through things like with AppSmart, where you don't have to go everywhere and source all these things. You can source the Office 365 and the GSuite. If you already have customers on Vonage or RingCentral, go find out if they're already on Office 365 or GSuite. Because I tell you right now, most CEOs I'm talking to, they are terrified of the remote workforce because they're afraid that the productivity is not going to be there. And here they are paying these massive amounts of payroll, and they have no way to verify because the data is all over the place. And if you can help them put the right systems in place, this is not even a sale. You shouldn't even look at this as a sale. You're going out there to help people. And if they don't want your help, go to the next person because somebody else will take your help because they don't know the answers to these questions. So this should not even be a sale. It should be a true, genuine, like, look, I'm here to help you. And I encourage you, like I said, add me on LinkedIn. I work very closely with AppSmart. And not only do I work closely with AppSmart, AppSmart is one of my customers. AppSmart has GSuite. They have Salesforce. They have a UC system. They have Prodoscore. You know how easy it was for AppSmart just to go all remote? And they were already working on the transition before all of this stuff happens. They don't worry, their executives aren't worried about productivity. So Corey, I'll leave it there. and you take control. And I encourage you guys to reach out to us.
Yeah, we do have some questions. Neil asks, do you see a use case for people to monitor the remote workers that is not a Salesforce?
So so here, it's funny you say that. So the customers we have right now, so typically Prodoscore was used for knowledge workers. Before this whole crisis started, we were just primarily targeting the knowledge workers, okay? Literally overnight, all of our existing customers have asked us to increase the licensing account to other departments because now everybody's working remotely. So the answer to your question is yes.
Great. Elizabeth asks, what other applications show activity?
So we just released a LinkedIn. Companies are spending a lot of money on LinkedIn, and a lot of employees are not using their LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So we now have a connector that feeds in with LinkedIn. So we can do phones, CRM, email collaboration. We do have on the roadmap, because our second biggest request, and we plan to get this at the end of the year, but the next biggest request that everyone asks us for is how to manage developers, because companies are spending a lot of money on developers and they have no way to measure their productivity.
Great. Neil added on to that. He said, it would be super useful to see a list of the types of roles that Prodoscore could monitor.
So think about it like this. I'll put it this way. I'll make it very simple. If you work in a company, and again, most companies, they allow their employee to work from home once a week, okay? That makes them feel better. They spend all this money in the office. They want you to use the office. Businesses are going to find out the hard way, the way we're doing it now, by force feeding it to them. They're going to realize those employees who can work from home full time. So if there are employees who are working from home full time, this will work for them. And we support multiple roles. We already have all kinds of subcategories where you can categorize all the different roles within Prodoscore. And I encourage you to call us and set up a time where we can get more in depth with the demo and get more in detail with your questions. We have all kinds of collateral. We can help you. For those of you guys who work with Nick Collins or Steve Slaughter, these guys are super knowledgeable in all this stuff.
Excellent. Any other questions before we end? Elizabeth asks, how do we find out about pricing?
So the best person to talk to is with Nick Collins or Steve Slaughter, depending on, or you can go back to your channel manager and then but we actually have special pricing just for AppSmart.
Yes, and Nick says, reach out, we are here to help. Jason is asking, what is the low-hanging fruit? Who are the customers to start with?
Any customer that's already on Office 365 or GSuite. And it's very easy to find out who those customers are. Just go look up MX Record Lookup. You put their domain in, you look at their MX records, and you can tell whether they're on Office 365 or GSuite. And what's good about it, and Nick can attest to this, you actually can make money if the customer's already on Office 365 or GSuite, if they're buying directly from Google or Microsoft, and AppSmart will pay you for it. So if they're already using Office 365 or GSuite, they're a perfect fit for Prodoscore, especially because now we know everybody just deployed a remote workforce. I mean, it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Exactly. Yeah, and as Nick said, that's basically your current base. Nick also said we have templates to embed into an outbound campaign to your current base. So talk to your channel manager about that. One other question from an attendee here. Mark asks, is this software of AppSmart also designed for the small business marketplace?
Oh, so here's the beautiful part. I learned this a long time ago. When I first started my business, I used to be in the Marine Corps. I used to work in enterprise technology software, and I could have made a lot of money after I got in the Marine Corps, but I wanted to work with small business. I don't know what it is about small business, but I just enjoy working with small business. We have special packages and special pricing just for the small business users. who has 3 employees, 5 employees. And guess what? Here's the best part, what you guys will love about Prodoscore. It takes 15 minutes to install. There's no charge to try it, as long as they're on Office 365 or GSuite. So if you have customers on Office 365 or GSuite, we have an onboarding person. They'll work with the customer. They'll onboard them. In 15 minutes, they'll get full visibility across their organization.
Excellent. One last question. Neil asks, is the pricing different via AppSmart for small business than what is currently listed on AppSmart?
Yeah, there's new pricing that just was finished negotiated yesterday for AppSmart.
Excellent.
They have a bundle. So AppSmart put a bundle together with Office 365 and GSuite with Prodoscore. So they have a special price bundle specifically for that.
Dan, your question, what does AppSmart do? We'll get with you offline with that and kind of explain our business model. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you, Chrysantos. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. This presentation will be live on the Learning Campus within 24 hours. So if you want to share this to another agent, if you want to just watch it again, it will be live. And then, Chrysantos, you'll get the attendee list so you can reach out to everyone and get them the information they need.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.